Assalamualaikum and greeting to everybody. Today we are going to make a discussion forum. The purpose of this discussion forum is to enable us, the student, to enhance our knowledge on the roles of occupational safety and health legal requirement in business management for a specific industry throughout this forum. First of all, the way occupational safety and health management is implemented is very important. There are two acts bonding all organizations in Malaysia in order to ensure the workers are being protected from all risks coming from workplace hazards. The two acts that will be discussed today are
Factory and Machinery 1967, FMA 1967.
Occupational Safety and Health Act 1997 and 1994, OSHA 1994.
that's great. Regulation, guidelines, and codes of practice have been drawn up to support the acts. Let's first take a look at Factory and Machinery Act FMA 1967 or Act 139. What is FMA? Firdaus.
Factories and Machinery Act FMA 1967 or Act 139 is to provide for the control of factories on matters relating to the safety, health and welfare of person and the registration and inspection of machinery. 1. Some high-risk machineries such as boilers, unfired pressure vessel, passenger lift and other lifting equipment such as mobile cranes, tower cranes, passenger hoists, overhead travelling cranes and gondolas must be certified and inspected by DOSH. 2. All factories and general machinery must be registered with DOSH before they can be installed and opened in Malaysia.
Great. Now let's look at OSHA. What is OSHA actually, Fikri?
What I think is first, the Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA 1994, Act 415 provides the legislative framework to promote, stimulate, and encourage high standards of safety and health at work. The aim is to promote safety and health awareness and establish effective safety organization and performance through self-regulation schemes designed to suit the particular industry or organization. The long term of the act is to create healthy and safe working culture among all Malaysian employees and employers. Second, OSHA 1994 defines the general duties of employees, the self-employed, designers, manufacturers, importers, and suppliers of plant or substance. Although these duties are of general character, they carry wide range sets of responsibilities. The Act provides a comprehensive and integrated system of law to deal with the safety and health of virtually all people at work and the protection of public where they may be affected by the activities of people at work.
All right, thank you, Fikri. So basically, during this discussion, we will focus on two main goals, which are roles of occupational safety and health, legal requirement in business management, and Occupational Safety and Health Act in Malaysia and its salient features.
Okay, Nick. Can you explain what are the salient features?
Okay, thank you, Fikri. Actually, salient feature is an act to provide for the control of factories with respect to matters relating to the safety, health, and welfare of person therein, the registration and inspection of machinery, and for matters connected therewith.
Okay, and Nazmeer, can you explain what is Factory and Machinery Act?
okay. Factory and Missionary Act are an act to provide for the control of factories with respect to matters relating to safety, health, and welfare of person therein, the registration and inspection of machinery, and for the matters connected therewith.
I have a question. First, what are the difference between Occupational of Safety and Health Act OSHA 1994 and Factories and Machinery Act FMA 1967 in terms of scope, approach, and objective?
Okay, let me explain for the scope. For FMA, only cover occupational safety and health in the manufacturing, mining, quarrying, work of engineering and construction, which basically cover 24% of the manpower. Meanwhile, for OSHA 1994, cover all economic activities and government except armed forces and safers. It's cover 90% of the manpower.
Okay, thank you, Nazmeer. And for the approach, the difference between them is FMA is very prescriptive and they are too dependent on the government. And lastly, they are concerned by inspection by regulation authorities. And for the OSHA, it is self-regulation supported by code of practice, guideline and etc. Tripartite responsibilities, workers, cooperation and participant.
Okay, thank you. For objective, FMA, first, focus on control of factories and machinery. Next, registration and inspection of machine. Last, less provision for health. For OSHA, to safeguard health and welfare of employees and those at the place of work. For the example, visitors, contractors, and something else.
And then we go to the regulation number 1, which is Electric Passenger and Good Lift Regulation 1970. Under this regulation of Electric Passenger and Good Lift Regulation, a machine room shall be provided for and restricted to the housing of lift machine and associated equipment. What are the criteria that every machine room shall have, Fikri? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Let me explain the criteria that every machine room shall have. Every machine room shall be so designed that the floor can carry a load of not less than 100 pounds per square foot over the whole area, and also any load which may be imposed thereon by the equipment installed in the machine room. Every machine room shall be of such a size as will permit free access to all parts of the machines and equipments located therein for the purpose of inspection, maintenance, and dismantling. At least two sides, there shall be a minimum distance of 18 inches between any part of the machine and adjoining wall, and where necessary, a steel joist shall be provided above the machine to facilitate lifting heavy parts. Every machine room shall be soundly constructed, weatherproof, dry, and adequately ventilated. Nazmeer, can you continue?
Okay, thank you, Fikri. I will continue. There are another two criteria, that is have a clear height of not less than 6 feet and 6 inches from the floor, provided that where the lift machine is installed on the pedestal on the floor, there should be a clear height of not less than 2 feet and 6 inches above the highest point of the lift machine. And lastly, be provided with permanent electric lighting, and illumination should not be less than 10-foot candles at floor level, and at least one socket and plug for hand lamp shall be provided. The light switch should be fixed adjacent to the machine room entrance.
In addition to that, the room should always be kept clear of refuse and should not be used for the storage of articles or materials other than those required for the maintenance or operation of the lift. And lastly, be locked against unauthorized access. A duplicate key should be provided and retained under a glass front cabinet adjacent to the entrance. Okay, let me continue with third regulation, Safety, Health and Welfare Regulation 1970. Next, is it possible to install a machine on a third floor, and which regulation relate to this matter? Nick, can you answer?
Okay, thank you, Firdaus. Based on safety, health, and welfare regulation, no machinery shall be installed or caused to be installed on any floor above the ground floor of any building unless such floor has been designed and constructed to support the load so imposed there on or alternatively strengthened for the purpose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nick. I will continue for fourth regulation, which is steam boilers and unfired pressure vessel regulation, 1970. For steam boilers and unfired pressure vessel regulations, 1970, there are rules for import steam boiler and pressure vessel. What should the owner or importer of every steam boiler or unfired pressure vessel shall render, and to who should they render? Nazmeer, can you answer this question? Thank
That's
you.
a good that's a good question. The owner or importer of every steam boiler or unfired pressure vessel should render to chief inspector first a certificate from the manufacturer or maker of the steam boiler or unfired pressure vessel describe the same and giving particular of the material used in its construction, the design pressure, the manufacturer or maker, serial number and the hydrostatic test to which it has been subjected.
Okay, we continue to the next question. For under Certificate of Competency Examination Regulation, also in 1970, there is a section for false representation. What is mean by this, and what is the consequences of false representation? Can you answer this question, Fikri?
Okay, Ken. Thank you, Nick. False representation is any person who, firstly, make use of a suspended or cancelled certificate of competency or makes use of a certificate of competency to which he is not entitled, or allow his certificate or competency to be used by any other person, or makes or assist in making or procures to be made any false representation for the purpose of procuring either for himself or any other person a certificate of competency. It also shall be guilty of an offence. The consequences is where the chief inspector is satisfied that any certificate of competency has been obtained by false representation. Such certificate shall be cancelled by the chief inspector and the holder thereof shall surrender the same to the chief inspector. Okay, thank
Okay,
you. Nazmeer?
that's a good explanation. Thank you for the explanation. Let's continue. Under the Administration Regulation 1970, the responsibility of chief inspector is explained. Can you share what is the responsible of a chief inspector? Firdaus?
Okay, well, the chief inspector should, subject to the direction of the minister, be responsible for the due execution for the provision of the act and the regulation made thereunder, and shall submit to the minister before the 15th day of April in each year a report on such matter pertaining to the operation of the act and regulation made thereunder, as the minister shall require in respect of the year immediately preceding. That's all.
Okay, thank you for those. I got next question. Based on compounding of offense rule in 1978, what are the offer to the compound? Thank you. Can you answer for me, Fikri?
Okay, thank you, Nick. First, when a chief inspector or a deputy chief inspector decides to compound an offence, he shall send or cause to be sent to, or personally serve, or cause to be personally served on the person reasonably suspected of having committed the offence and offer to compound as in the schedule. The second one is the offer shall state the sum of which the offence will be compounded and the date by which the sum must be paid. Thank you. Firdaus, can you continue?
Okay, excellent. For the next question about lead regulation 1984. Leads mean metallic lead, all inorganic lead compounds and organic lead soaps, but exclude all other organic lead compounds. For the Act of Lead Regulation 1984, what are the additional monitoring for this Act, Nazmeer?
Okay, for the additional
Hello.
monitoring for this act, whenever there has been a production, process control, or personnel change which may result in new or additional exposure to lead, or whenever the employer has any another reason to suspect a change which may result in new or additional exposure to lead, additional monitoring in accordance with this part should be conducted. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Nazmeer. That's the good explanation. I will continue the 8th regulation, which is Asbestos Process Regulation in 1986. For the Act of Asbestos Process Regulations, 1986, the part about handling and disposal, can you tell the ways to handle and disposal of asbestos material, Nick? Can you answer it?
Okay, thank you, Fikri. Actually, I got three ways, which is number one, no asbestos material shall be dispatched from or so far as is practicable received into a factory or warehouse, or be kept in a factory or warehouse unless it is in a receptacle from which asbestos dust cannot escape, or it is being transported within the factory in a totally enclosed system of conveyance. And the second one is no asbestos material shall be disposed of as waste within a factory except in approved manner. And the last one is all receptacles containing asbestos material in a factory shall be labeled as follow. Caution, handle with care, contain asbestos material, avoid creating dust. Okay.
Next question about Noise Exposure Regulation 1989. For the Act of Noise Exposure Regulation 1989, from part of the hearing protection device, what should the hearing protection device provide in pursuant to sub-regulation? Nazmeer?
Okay, basically there are three things. That is, firstly, correctly fit the employee. Secondly, be compatible with the job requirement of the employee. And thirdly, not prejudice the health of employee. That's all. Nick, can you continue?
Okay, thank you, Nazmeer, for the answer. Okay, and then that's all for Factories and Machinery Act FMA 1967 or Act 139 discussion. Thank you all for your sharing for this part. So let's move on to the next topic, which are Occupational of Safety and Health Act, OSHA 1994.
Okay, now let's move on to the next question. There is Occupational Safety Health Act in Malaysia and its lion features, which we've been discussing in this forum. Occupational Safety and Health, OSHA, is a branch of public health and aimed at improving workplace health and safety standards. Based on Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994, OSHA 1994, what can you describe about what is contained in the Act? Can you answer this, Firdaus?
Okay, no problem. The Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994 or Act 514 provides the legislative framework for the safety, health and welfare among all Malaysian workforce. The Act 514 contains a clear statement that the responsibility for occupational safety and health at workplace are shared between the employers and the workers, since the employers are the ones who provide the working environment which give rise to hazards at work, and the workers are the ones who have to work with these hazards. That's all for me.
Yeah, that's right, Firdaus. The principle is to prevent and protect the workers against hazard and its risk in connection with their activities in work. It requires all companies to establish and document the safety and health policy, duties of the employer, employees, and the safety and health officers, the safety and health committee of companies, and also occupational safety and health inspection and officers. Thank you. Okay, I got a question for you, Fikri. There is a
Okay.
code of practice in the Occupational Safety and Health Act 1994, OSHA 1994. Can you describe how code of practice is applied and how code of practice is used in this proceeding? Thank you, Fikri.
Okay, thank you, Nick. I will answer the question. Actually, industry code of practice consists of any code, standard, rule, specification, and provision relating to occupational safety and health approved by the minister. Code of practice set out standard by which the adequacy of the measures adopted should be judged. An example of this is the code of practice for HIV and AIDS in the workplace. This code of practice that has been developed by the Department of Occupational Safety and Health can only be considered as industry code of practice when it is gazetted. Currently, guidance notes have been developed, for example, reproductive health in the workplace, standing at work, confined space, first aid in the workplace, and may be considered a code of practice. Firdaus, can you explain more about this code of practice?
Okay. This when recommended by the Council or the Director General, approved by the Minister and Gazette, can become industry code of practice. Next, use of industry codes of practice in proceedings should be admissible as evidence in proceeding in court. If the breach of the industry code of practice is proved at any material time, breach of the appropriate provision is taken to be proved unless the court is certified that the defendant complied in some other way which is at least as good as the provision of the code. Employers are advised to follow appropriate industry code of practice or set up systems better than those stated in the industry code of practice. Okay, that's all for me.
So later we are going to focus on two regulations in this 1994 Act, which are occupational safety and health, classification, labeling, and safety data sheet of hazardous chemical regulation 2013, and the other one is occupational safety and health, safety and health officer regulation 1997.
Okay, thank you, Fikri, Nick, and Firdaus for the answer. That's a great answer. Next, Firdaus, can you explain to us what is meant by chemical? What is the definition of chemical itself in this regulation?
Okay, thank you. According to the regulation, chemical means a substance that compound in the natural state or obtained by any manufacturing process, including any additives necessary to preserve its stability and any impurity deriving from the process used, but excluding any solvent which may be separate without affecting the stability of the element and its compounds, or changing its composition, and a chemical mixture which is a mixture or solution composed of two or more substances which do not react for use at place of work, including an alloy. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Firdaus, for the good explanation. Now I want to continue to the next question. I want to ask Nick. According to your reading in this regulation, there are a lot of hazardous chemical in the industry. What kind of chemical that do not apply to this regulation act?
Okay, thank you, Fikri. That's a great question actually. Okay, based on my reading, a chemical which is a radioactive material as defined under the Atomic Energy Licensing Act 1984 at 304, schedule waste as defined under the Environmental Quality Schedule Waste Regulation 2005, um, a cosmetic or product as defined under the Control of Drug and Cosmetic Regulation 1984. And then the chemical that is not applied to this regulation is that are not for sale in the market and it does not exceed 5 kilograms in its capacity, and then it have the adequate information on the safe use of the chemical is made available by the supplier, and then a chemical which is a pesticide as defined under the Pesticide Act 1974, and then lastly a chemical in transit prior to export which is stored at any storage area. Thank you. That's all from me, Fikri.
Okay, let's move on for the next question. And for the next question, we are going to focus on the occupational safety and health. Safety and Health Regulation 1997. The qualification for safety and health officer are a person who holds a diploma in occupational safety and health or the equivalent, has successfully completed a training in occupational and safety. For exam, lastly, she has been working in its field for at least 10 years. Based on the Act, what are their main duties? Firdaus, can you explain about their duties?
Okay, can. According to the Occupational Safety and Health Officer Regulation 1997, their duties are to advise the employer or any person in charge of a place of work on the measures to be taken in the interest of the safety and health of the person employed in the place of work, and to inspect the place of work to determine whether any machinery, plant, equipment, substance, appliance or process or any description of manual labor used in the place of work is for such nature liable to cause bodily injury to any person working in the place of work, and to investigate any accident, near miss accident, dangerous occurrence, occupational poisoning or occupational disease which has happened in the place of work. I think I need Fikri to continue.
Okay, Ken, thank you. Other than that, they also will try to assist the safety and health committee and officers in any inspection of the place of work for the purpose of checking the effectiveness and efficiency of any measure taken in compliance with the Act or any regulation made under the Act to collect, analyze, and maintain statistics on any accident, dangerous occurrence, occupational poisoning, and occupational disease which have occurred at the place of work, and lastly to carry out any other instruction made by the employer or any other person in charge of the place of work on any matters pertaining to safety and health of the place of work. That's all for me. Nick, can you continue for the next question?
Okay, thank you, Fikri. I got the next question, and about this safety and health officer. To who they submit their data and statistic job? What are their next steps? Can you explain to me, Firdaus?
Okay, sure, I can. In the Act, Safety and Health Officer will submit a report containing their activities to their employer 10 days before proceeding to the next month. The report submitted under sub-regulation should contain any action to be taken by the employer and the method of establishing and maintaining a safe and healthy working condition in the place of work in order to comply with the requirements of the Act or any regulation made under the Act. That's all.
Okay, let me continue. Then it also should contain the number of type of accident, near miss accident, dangerous occurrence, occupational poisoning, or occupational disease which have occurred in the place of work, including the number of person injured, either in occurring lost time injury or no lost time injury, and any types of machinery, plant, equipment, appliances, substance or process, or any description of manual labor used in the place of work, which is of such nature liable to cause bodily injury to any person working in the places of work. Lastly, the report should contain any recommendation to be made to the structure or layout of the place of work in the interest of safety and health of the person employed to keep the work environment safe.
So, I guess that's all from us today. Thanks to every one of you, Nazmeer, Firdaus, and Fikri, for sharing your knowledges and experiences on this topic. And I really hope we are going to gain some understanding and information over this forum discussion.
Yes, I have learned a lot from today's forum discussion.
Yes, we learn a lot about those two act and its silent features.
Me
Great.
too. I have gained more knowledge from today's session.
Okay, thank you guys all. I hope we can have a future conversation and discussion for the new topic. But today, has come to its end. That's all from us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum. Waalaikumsalam.